Yeah, so every time I'm done pulling a shot, I pull this down all the way down. So that way it releases that pressure, that buildup. And then this way, you don't have to worry about things exploding.
Pulling a shot, you stop it first?
No, you just pull the lever all the way down. What's happening with this is that because there's not enough the particle coffee size is not too compressed because it's so coarse, as soon as water hits it, it's going through those cracks and just pulling it fast. So that is what it's set at right now. So what we're going to be doing is, like I said, I'm just going to get to a grind setting that makes sense. All right, so if you were to touch this now, comparative to what it was before, you'll see how much finer it is. One extreme is if the shot's coming out like really, really fast, you're unextracting. You're extracting nothing from your coffee. What causes that is two things. Either your coffee is ground too coarse, or there's not enough coffee in your portafilter. Same thing as the opposite. So let's say if I'm pulling a shot and it's taking like 10, 15 seconds for it to actually start dropping down or just dripping. What's causing that is that the coffee is either too fine or there's way too much coffee in there that's causing high restrictions. And you're over extracting coffee. And even at that point, if you let it sit for longer, the coffee's already over extracted. The coffee's already absorbing all that water and you're just not going to get a pleasant espresso shot. Ideally, time-wise, your shot should start at around a 5 to 8 second mark, like at the flow actually beginning. It should start off kind of syrupy and then speed up a little bit to create that nice flavor you're looking for. Gram wise, usually around, depending on the basket you're using, 18 to 20 grams is kind of like the point I tell people to kind of stay with to get a good extraction to it. Time wise, your shot should be running for about 25 to 30 seconds, depending on the coffee you're using. If you're using, let's say, a little bit more on the darker side, then 30 seconds. If you're using something a little bit more medium, then about 25 to 28 seconds is a good time point for that. So those are kind of like the basics. Now, this recipe I'm giving you isn't like this is the end-all be-all recipe. This is just the recommended recipe with your espresso. You could go online and research other things, or everyone's going to have different types of recipes to it. But this is kind of like the standard kind of. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, there's my rule of thumb is that if you go online, someone's like, oh, this is the recipe that's always going to pull a proper espresso. Yes, that applies to the grinder, the machine, and the coffee you're using. But if you're using a lot of different types of coffee or things like that, it will change and fluctuate a lot. There's too many variables to be, this is the set recipe.
Is there any specific water we should be using, like tap water?
Filtered water is ideal. Yeah, but like the water, because I'm guessing that spout is filtered, so use that one there. Okay, so another question I get a lot of is when you're dealing with a doser like this, like one that actually has a timed dose system to it, is how do you know how many seconds that produces the grams you want? The answer to that is that there's no set number. You kind of have, this is why you have the scale, because you need to figure out how many seconds produces the grams you need, and then you program the seconds from there. So you start off usually, I recommend usually around 8 to 9 seconds, and if it's overdosing, then just start going a little bit lower than that.
We were using 6 and it wasn't enough.
Yeah, so usually with this one here, especially if going finer, so keep in mind also, the coarser the grind, the more coffee that's going to come out, the finer the grind, the less coffee that's going to come out to it.
We were too coarse.
What's that weight you're trying to achieve?
So I'm trying to see exactly how many seconds it's going to take to get the 18 to 19 grams I'm looking for. So the reason why we measure the portafilter is that you want to tear the portafilter, so when I put it in there, I get the actual amount. Exactly. Yeah. So with this one here, for this particular one, I recommend about 18 to 19 grams is more than enough. The basket that comes with it, I believe it's around 18 to 19 gram baskets. So let's just see how this guy's pulling.
Yeah, the first. We started off bad. I wasn't. We started off bad.
So
we're excited.
Tamping is very important. You have to make sure that you have the right angle and the right force to it. So some people online, when you see them using the palm to push down, the problem with that is that when you do that, it's easy to get that tamper off center. And that creates something called channeling. So what happens with the coffee then is that as soon as the water hits the puck, it all filters down in there and you're only extracting from one side. You always want to make sure your tamp is nice and even. So to achieve that, you get your tamper.
This is an art.
You kind of want to keep it, just catch your fingers all around those edges to make sure it's even. Once it's there, elbows up, and just do one solid straight tamp to get a nice even side to it. You don't have to tap it twice, just one solid tap. It shouldn't be too hard. Like you shouldn't be like on your tippy toes and using all your force down. Just enough to create a solid seal to it. So at the end of it all, once I'm done tapping it, your puck shouldn't come out at all. Okay. Some things that you may see online, you see some people do, is that if there's a little bit of coffee on the side, they hit the sides and tap it again. Don't do that. There's a moment you hit the sides, it breaks the seal, and it's going to cause uneven extraction. If you want to do that, just put the tamper in the portafilter, just give it a little spin, just to even everything out. All right. Just going to turn this guy on with the...
Ceramic cup right there.
So one thing you want to do every time you're done playing a shot is just turn on the lever and let the water run through. And the reason why is that you don't want any coffee left on the group head, because what happens with it is that any coffee oils or any grinds that are there, if you don't purge it out and it sits there, as soon as you turn off the machine, that residual heat is going to cook those oils and harden those coffee grinds. And every time I turn on the machine, that mixture gets backflushed in the machine, causing clogging and damaging your espresso machine. So you just want to make sure you rinse out, purge out your water each time.
Which button you press? First or second?
This one, the double shot. Oh. So this one here is going to be sitting probably around 92. Definitely not 92 grams. Yeah, once I set the grinder, there's really not much you're going to have to do after that.
This thing here, you leave it open or closed?
So this one here, this is how you're controlling your water flow. So you want to leave it open for now until I guess you guys feel comfortable enough to play around with those factors. But I recommend just keeping it open all the way for now. When you're doing flow control, it comes down to more once you get used to how the machine operates, and then you can kind of play around with those factors there.
They have a portafilter? What does that say?
So the portafilter itself should be around 5.1. That's the thing. It's always the first dial-in that's going to be your most complicated dial-in.
Where were we when we started? What was the number on the...
6,
grind?
5.
You guys were at like 4.8 around there.
Right now he's at
Yep.
1, just over 1.
Yep.
Oh, I hear it.
Okay, so you see a better flow. It's still a little bit on the faster side, but I could up the dosage to fix that. All right, so last one I stopped it around a second and a bit left. So this one I just let it do the full amount. Let's see how the flow comes out.
You were already on the fine tuning part.
Yep, this is not the fine tuning. That's all the way. Yep. So you're seeing some dripping. So there was some flow. So I can just add down the dosage a little bit from what it was. So at full amount, it's still with a lot of restriction, but not too much. So what we're gonna do is just change the dose time. Well, I'm gonna try the better shots. All right. So this one I'm gonna pull. You guys can give it a try, and then let me know what you think. If it's too bitter,
It'll be wired.
yep. If it's too bitter, like very bitter, that's a sign of over extraction. If it's a little sour, that's a sign of under extraction.
Over extraction, so running too much water.
Exactly. Under extraction, not enough water to it. So for example, when you're pulling a shot and it's gushing out, that's under extraction. When you're pulling a shot and it's going really, really slow, you're over extracting a shot. But there's also another variant to it where if you're pulling a shot and let's say you pull it a couple of seconds above what you normally do, that starts kind of like the over extraction process. Or if you stop it shorter, that could be a little bit of the under extraction process.
So over extraction is little water coming through.
Yeah, so over extraction is either too little water coming through, where it's just extract where the coffee is just absorbing everything, or if let's say I pulled a shot just a little bit shorter than normal, and you notice a change in the flavor to it, that's usually what causes under extraction. That's an under extraction shot as well. and vice versa.
So the extraction is to the coffee grind you're talking, not water.
The extraction is with both the grind and the water itself in terms of when the water hits the puck and how long it runs.
What are we over extracting? Coffee grind or
You're over extracting the coffee and the water because you're adding too much water to the coffee. It depends on what's happening to it. So if you're, let's say it's going really, really slow, that's both the amount of water and the coffee absorbing and all. But if you're like a little bit off, then that's more of just the water, how much water you're running through the shot itself. In terms of if you want to do it visually, your coffee should be hitting roughly around where that edge is, that line around the portafilter is.
Underneath it? Or
Exactly. Just slightly underneath it. So it shouldn't necessarily be sitting on it, but a little bit
Randy, can you
underneath
look
it.
at that?
So that's that inner lip there.
Yep, exactly.
So that basically this has to match the top of this.
Yep, correct. So if
fancy wanting actual espresso.
if your coffee is above that, it's all the way up here. It's not. There's way too much coffee in there. At the same time, if it's really below that, there's too little coffee in there.
So you can't eyeball it.
I don't recommend it. I mean, you can, but I don't recommend it.
I'm waiting every time.
If anybody's gonna eyeball, it's gonna be me.
Actually, we should bring in the uni.
Oh, that looks like a good one.
That's amazing.
Hey, Julian, what do you think?
I
Yeah,
have the.
a little bit dripping there, but that's fine.
Is it all the way up?
He's got.
Yep.
He's got the larger one, and he's also. Got
What does this number represent?
That's how long the shot's, how much the time of the shot that's running.
And what do you recommend?
Normally around 28 to 30 seconds.
And you're okay with us doing a double like this?
It's up to you guys. Like if you want to do it like this or just put in one cup, that's perfectly fine. There's no like, no, don't do it this way. Like the thing with when people come in, they ask me about the double spouts, like, but isn't that just for a double? Doesn't that make a double shot? It's like, no, it's the basket on the inside that makes a double shot a double shot. If you're using an 18-gram basket, that's a double shot portion. If you're using a 12-gram basket,
One shot though, that's gonna be.
if you're using one shot, like normally in terms of the places I've worked and the people I've teach, because it depends on which side of the spectrum you are. But for me, it's kind of like when I'm doing a single shot, I always pull a double shot portion because I get a better quality flavor and texture to it. But if you're using a single shot basket, you're just putting less coffee to it. But that's in terms of the style of the coffee, like this one here. So the thing with coffee in general, when you look at flavoring the taste of coffee in general, when you're harvesting green beans, green coffee is always going to start at the highest level of acids, sugars, complex compounds to it. Bitterness comes out the longer you roast it. So if I'm roasting something that's on this level, the bitterness is going to overstep the sweetness and the acidity to it. So the darker the roast, more bitterness or crema, but you're also losing a little bit more of that sweetness to it. For me personally, like I'm not a big fan of like really dark roasted coffee. I like more medium roast or espresso, just because I get a balance of both sweetness and richness. This is more on the traditional kind of Italian, like kind of dark, on the darker side. And you can tell just by the color of the beans. And the kind of glossiness to it, because they're roasting a little bit too dark. And not necessarily that it's a wrong way to roast it, it's just more of a traditional style to it. But if you were to go with something, let's say a little bit on the medium side, like a little bit lighter than this, the grind setting I have it right now kind of would still work with that kind of setting to it.
Paul to come in?
Ruffino is a very easy coffee to dial in, especially if you're using their super bar or their standard ones. It's a very easy coffee to dial in. I personally, if I was going to compare it between like this coffee and Ruffino, I actually lean more towards the Ruffino because it just the coffee they source. It's a little better quality. It's a little higher in its grade for it. Has a lot of flavor to it and just has a good balance of both those richer notes, sweet notes, and chocolatey notes. So that's your flow control gauge. Now, what that does is that when I'm playing with the flow on the lever, this indicates how much pressure that's building up in the machine to get to play around with your flow rate. Personally, I would say don't necessarily need it installed right now because that's something that you'll be kind of paying much attention to, and then you'll kind of be like, wait a minute, it's not doing this. You'll play with a little bit more those factors. Exactly. So my thing is kind of like get used to the machine first, and when the time comes, then you can do the installment from there.
Let me take a picture of this bag so I can tell Pat it's a bit too strong for me.
So I could go through some, since we have the grind pretty much ready to go, I could go through some drinks if you guys want. How to make certain drinks. If you're looking on milk-based drinks, a macchiato is just a shot of espresso with a little bit of steam foam on top. Now, depending on how you want to do the foam for that, there's your very, very thick, kind of heavy, bubbly foam, or there's more of a microfoam. Microfoam requires a specific position and technique to get that nice glossy foam that creates more sweetness from your milk from there. Do you guys have milk? So,
Not good?
No.
so I'll go through milks in general. So all milk is not treated equally in terms of steaming. Whole milk is the better milk to use, 2% or 1%. I don't recommend going with skim milk because it's more or less just white water. It's not going to steam properly. It's just not a lot of flavor that could come out of it. When you're using alternative milks, almond milk and oat milks are fine. But if you're using brands like Silk, like this particular one, this milk is not designed to handle high temperatures and pressures. So it's already going to over steam and create a very bitter taste to it. The ones I recommend going for is things like Silk has a Barista brand, oat milk, there's Pacific, there's Minor Figures. There's a lot of different types of
Randy, you're in charge of the milk.
Barista branded milks out there. And those ones are designed to handle those high pressures and temperatures to create a microfoam to get a better flavor to it. I can use this, but it is going to over steam. Whole milk is the best one to use. It steams beautifully and
Any whole milk?
any whole milk. I don't recommend using like
Can we do 2%?
2% is perfectly fine too. You can use 2%.
1%.
Yeah, 2% or lactose-free milk. It's perfectly fine. It's you lose a lot of the different fats and stuff to it. The only milks I recommend to avoid is organic milks. And the reason why organic milks I tell people to avoid that is that it steams completely different than regular milk. It actually steams a lot thinner, whether it's a whole milk or whatnot. If you're using, let's say, there's a brand called Sheldon's Creek, which is a very thick, unpasteurized milk, like a lot thicker than what you know is. You'd have to get directly to them. But the example of that is like milks that have like the cream cap that's come in a bottle and stuff like that. They're a lot fattier, so it steams a lot. You need to steam it a little bit longer.
Is it pasteurized, that milk?
It's unpasteurized.
Is that
Yeah.
legal?
This one for their brand, yes, so they can. It's not quite a raw milk, so it is. Yep.
What's gonna happen to our insides?
So, but I do recommend something like
Coffee machines.
Seal Test, Natrel, like those ones are perfectly fine for that.
Go around and get milk?
Oh no, it's fine. I'll do an Americano, and then we could steam some of the oat milk. There's two ways of making an Americano. There's espresso first, and then hot water over it, or there's hot water and espresso. The method I prefer is hot water then espresso over it. And the reason why is that when you're putting the shot over the hot water, you're maintaining the crema, which creates that texture, and it doesn't dilute the flavor, and you're getting a little bit more of a stronger espresso shot to it. When I pull an espresso shot first and pour hot water over it, it breaks away the crema, it dilutes it more, and you lose a lot of those textures and flavors that you would normally get if you pull a shot over the water itself.
Hot water, espresso.
Hot water first?
Yeah, and then
Well, this
espresso.
is for Americano.
For Americano.
But a macchiato is the same way? Or,
Oh no, macchiato is just a shot espresso with a little bit of steamed milk. I'm gonna do Americano right now, and then we'll do the milk base after. So if you want to do Americano,
How many shots of espresso is in Americano?
it depends on the person. There's no like I said for
But wouldn't you have done your espresso first? And then steam your water?
no, just do the water. Could just chill it. That's fine.
Can we use the single one when we do Americanos, or it doesn't matter?
No, yeah, in terms, like I said, the spouts that you use don't really matter.
Why is it
It's
only
just
coming out on one side?
because my type was probably uneven.
Oh.
Yeah, so just speed up a bit. But if you look at when you're doing the espresso over the water, you're maintaining that crema. You can have a better looking espresso. Whereas if I put the espresso first and drop water on it, it's going to break it away.
Yeah.
I normally say around for this one here, I find 30 seconds is a good amount of time.
Come look at the counter. He stopped at 29.6, 28.
Oh, it's counting?
There's a counter.
There's a counter there. So if you look at the Americano, you have that nice crema, you have that nice texture to it. When you taste it, you can have a little bit more of a stronger espresso flavor to it. So that's how you want with an Americano. If I did like the espresso first and then water over it, it's going to break it away. Kind of gives this almost like diluted, muddy kind of look to it. This one here
We can
was.
put less water.
You can put as much as water as you want. There's something called a long black, which is just a little bit of water, pulled espresso over it, and that's it. But yeah, in terms of the water,
No less water.
yeah, I would say just pull less water if you want to be a little stronger. Yeah, so I recommend getting something either a little bit on the medium side. If you go with a Ruffino, like Ruffino's coffee, they have ones that are stronger, but I recommend something like the Super Bar is kind of like their standard one, and it's not really that intense to it. So that, like I said, if you want to add a little bit less water, you can add a little bit less water to it. I wouldn't really play too much by adding too much coffee to this. The best way is just decrease your water instead of playing with the amount of coffee that's in the portafilter. For me, it's my biggest thing when I tell people when you're dialing in an espresso is that what people are going to remember the most is the aftertaste. Like if I've always tell my baristas, like when you're pulling a shot, if you taste it and it tastes great, but goes to hell at the end, That's what the person's gonna remember because that's what's there. It could be like, oh, it tastes like strawberries dipped in chocolate. It's amazing. And then afterwards, now it tastes like strawberries rolled in mud. It's like, no, that's what they're gonna remember. So the aftertaste should always, it shouldn't intensify, but it should always be pleasant until it completely dilutes itself to it. So let's make a milk-based drink. So yeah, all in all, the grinder is set up now. Your grinder is set up now.
If we change beans?
So if you change beans, like if you go with Ruffino, the only thing you're probably going to need to adjust is maybe either make it a tick finer or tick coarser. You're not going to be going from, you're not going to be going from, you're not going to be going from 5. You're not going to go from like 1 to like 4 or 5.
It'll be a minor adjustment.
Yeah, it'll be a minor, at this point now, it's all going to be minor
Randy,
adjustments.
you have to come there with me.
With a macchiato, you're always going to have wastage because you're going to need a certain volume for the steam wand to actually be put in a proper position to steam up properly. If I put less milk to it, what's happened is that all that force is going to hit the bottom of the pitcher and it's just going to explode all over the place. So you're always going to have wastage when doing a macchiato. Do you have a spoon by any chance? So when you're steaming, you're going to...
So that's for milk, this is for water?
Yep. So when I'm steaming, I'm going to start a little bit over the surface of the milk here on a deep angle.
Just a little below the surface.
Above the surface.
Yeah. Above the surface.
Yeah, because I want to create the foam for my cappuccino.
Above the surface.
So you don't have it in your milk.
So you should be getting kind of like a vortex kind of in the center there. That means you're getting a good balance of both foam, aeration, and temperature. My rule of thumb is that when it gets to the point where it's too hot to hold, then you want to kind of stop steaming from there.
How'd it come out considering it's oat milk?
It's not too bad. Once you're done steaming, purge it out. Purge it out and always wipe off your milk from the steam wand. You don't want it to sit there or it's going to stick, and then the worst case scenario, milk gets into the spout and then clogs it. So like I said, with milk in general, you're going to have to get rid of some. Like I said, you're going to have wastage because you need a certain volume to get the proper foam to it. Now again, this is oat milk, so this particular oat milk doesn't froth super thick. But there's two ways you could do it. When you have like a regular milk, you could scoop it in. If you're using something like an oat milk, where it's too thin. So that's what a macchiato is. Like I said, ideally if you're using, let's say, whole milk, it is a scoop of foam on top, which is more on the drier side. Or if you're doing like a whole milk and you're steaming it really thick, then you could dump a little bit of the liquid and just pour it in to get a good, really thick but kind of milky.
With better milk, that'd be really good.
Yeah, awesome. In terms of the drinks you guys normally drink, like milk-based drinks, is usually just macchiatos, or you want?
Macchiato.
Okay, so I'll show you how to steam a cappuccino then. Yeah. So for a cappuccino, all right, again, we're gonna start surface. Yeah, so in terms of the times, it's always gonna be the same.
The espresso was
25 to 28.
Yep, so 25 to about 28 seconds. 30 seconds is fine. For a milk-based drink, I tend to do, for milk-based drinks, 30 seconds, because you still want it a little bit stronger in its ratio. For espresso, 25 to 30 seconds. I mean, 25 to 28 seconds is good. But if it goes a little bit longer, it's fine, because in terms of how the grinder is currently set
We
up.
have a coffee party. Can you come here and make coffee for me?
I'll charge my barista fee.
cappuccino?
It would be if it was with regular milk. So texture-wise, like a cappuccino would be a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
So this one here, it's a little bit more on the latte side. Want to try?
Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, the latte art course is a separate course. But yeah, so that's more or less a cappuccino. Now when you're using whole milk or milk with fat to it, the technique I'm showing you in terms of position will create that thick layer of foam. So you'll still pour it directly into it, but what's going to end up happening is you're going to have that nice like thick dollop of foam on top. And when you look at the glass, your foam is going to be significantly thicker. So for a latte, in terms of position, I'm not going to have it touching the, actually I'll show you guys right here. Use water. If I'm steaming a cappuccino, my position's going to start here.
At the top?
Yep, so you notice how I don't have the steam wand like fully submerged, or just a little bit on the surface, because as I steam, it's going to create that foam to thicken up, and then it's going to position itself in the center to get the vortex I'm looking at to create the microfoam. If I'm doing a latte, however, I'm actually submerging it a little bit more. So not fully submerged,
Halfway?
but about halfway.
Get the ball.
Exactly, so this way I'm still getting foam to it, but not a thick layer of foam, but I'm still creating that nice vortex
It's
to
not
it.
foam, it's more thickening of
Exactly.
Okay.
And then steaming wise, when you're steaming, the voice sounds you don't want to hear is something like that, like any sound that's kind of like touching something or like bubbling up or anything like that. That means your steam wand's either touching the metal or it's too deep in the pitcher. If it explodes, your steam wand's too much on the surface and it's just gonna explode up right there. And that's a steaming technique between the two. Any questions in regards to pulling shots, steaming milk, or anything like that? When it comes on to steaming milk, it's just going to come down to technique, like getting used to the position of it. Everything's all dialed in and ready to go. The process of it, in terms of the tapping and stuff like that, that's going to come with practice. But at least now the grinder, that's fine. I have the timer set to consistently hit the grind setting that you need.
Timer on it? Really?
Yeah, so I already adjust the timer
Perfect.
to hit where it needs to be.
Oh, that's awesome.
So with here, you just want to give it a tap. Sorry, I should have showed you guys this. So once it's done,
yeah.
just give it a tap.
I have to do it.
Yeah, just showing you the technique.
There you go.
And there you go. There you go.
Very gentle with that. That's very good.
Good.
Yeah, I would put it on because of where it is right here. Just want to kind of tap it a little bit more on this side, right here, to kind of get it a little bit.
Why, Julian? You want it evened out?
You want it a little bit even out.
Okay.
One tool, you can use your finger. That's fine. Your finger's
He
fine.
broke the rules already.
One tool.
Oh, that thing.
Yeah, the one tool
I need one.
I recommend is just a leveler. So it's just a disc on a handle that you put in. You just turn it and then just levels it for you.
Oh,
Yeah, so your angle right here.
Doing at an angle.
Yeah, this is a
So critical.
So you notice here,
Oh, yeah.
it's a really deep angle.
Horrible.
So one thing you could do, so before you tap it,
Let me do it.
put your fingers here
Yep.
and then tap it before you tap it.
Oh,
So
make sure it's level.
to make sure it's level. So on something like this, what you can do is put the tamper on and just kind of push it a little more this way just to level it a little bit more. So there we go, should be in a better position. But don't add too much force because we already tapped it a couple of times now. Not too tight, so it should be enough where it's like nice and inserted, but if you're constantly pulling on it, it's going to damage the gasket. So it's gonna, your temperature is always gonna be sitting around 97 to 98 degrees.
Yes.
You said 25?
I would say for this one about 25 to 28. Yeah. If it's a little bit above, like if it's like 29, it's fine. If it's 20, like a little bit 24, then it's
You
fine.
can also
Is that
tell
a
by
little
the
bit liquidy?
volume of coffee, right?
There's a good texture to it.
Pretty good.
No, that's a good texture to it. It shouldn't be dark brown, but also shouldn't be like pale. Like this is a good kind of color too.
Mocha.
Yeah, you're gonna have that nice thick texture, nice thick richness to it. You're gonna have that the crema that's gonna give it the texture. If I got this shot, if I went to cafe and someone pulled me this shot, I wouldn't be
You'd be
like,
okay.
what the? I'd be like, that's good. It's good.
It's hard to get a good coffee at a restaurant, though.
Well, because you have to look at this. When you go to a restaurant, no one's there to train as a barista. Everyone's there as a bartender and whatnot. Like, you know, when they buy a machine and whoever sells the machine, what they tell them is like, pull your coffee, tap it, and then just pull it, and then that's it. A lot of times it's pulled really, really fast that you're just gonna get either an extracted shot or an over extracted shot. You know, I've been to, when I was wholesaling, like as a roaster, when I was wholesaling coffee, a lot of times when I bring my coffee to like a restaurant and they pull a shot, you know, I'm watching what they're doing and they're doing everything wrong. You know, it's like, yeah, what they're not trained for.
On here?
It's gonna warm because that's what that's there for. It's gonna, through the heat that builds up, you're gonna have that temperature to it. That's a bottomless portafilter. So a bottomless portafilter, I can pull you a shot with that so you can see what it does. But this one,
And do you recommend the single or no?
the single basket, I don't really recommend the single basket. The flow of the single basket, like, I personally am against the single basket just because of how it's shaped. Because if you look at the, yeah, so you're hitting this button right here.
Oh, in there?
Yep. So if you look at the shape of the single basket, because of the curvature here, when I tap it, it's not creating a really strong seal to it.
On here.
That's a lot.
I don't need
So I prefer the double basket. You just get more flavor to it. So you get more of a. So before you tap,
Yeah.
I recommend just getting your fingers and just kind of feeling it around because you'll be able to see where it's. Yep. So you have. Oh, it's a little bit higher on this end here. So just press it down just a little, like not too much force, just enough. There you go, and just kind of put the portafilter in. I mean the tamper in, and just kind of just a spin. Yep.
And where's the time?
The timer will replace the temperature. So once you
Oh, I
live it up, seconds wise, you're looking at around 25 to 28.
Oh, 25, 28.
Yeah. like I said, the grinder is designed so that way if you take it to 30, it's not going to pull a bad shot. It'll still pull a pretty decent shot. Yeah. So before you take it out, when you're done pulling your shot, just pull it this way because you see all that water that's coming out. That's all pressure built up.
Got it.
So once you remove it, yeah, good. Yeah, good layer of crema to it. It's not too thin. It's not too thick. Yeah, so like I said, I have the timer now set up to produce 18. Sometimes they make use like 7.9 or like 18.1, that's fine. But it's hitting exactly where you need it to be. So yours is a little bit off on here. So again, don't have to add like so much pressure on it because it is causing it to be too tight.
Oh, what happens if I get that on the rim?
So if you have that on the rim, just grab this, give it a spin. Just a little bit to give it a spin, and that's fine. Any coffee that's along here isn't going to do anything. So if there's on the edges there, just give it a little bit of white. If it's on like inside and you see it against the edges there, that's fine. There you go. Look at that flow.
Nice flow.
Bro, it's so easy. Just read the instructions.
Very good.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, not bad.
He says it's the best one so far.
Awesome. There we go.
Okay.
So yeah, every grinder's all set. Machine's all set. I'm just gonna quickly go over just maintenance quickly with you guys, and then after that, you guys will be good from there. But like I said, pull it down and let that rinse out, so that way you have none of those oils or coffee.
Let it.
Yeah, just for a couple seconds, that's fine. When you're done steaming your milk, always purge it out, and then give it a wipe, so that you know milk is built up on the surface of the steam wand, and no milk's built up on the inside of it. At the end of the day, you want to go through a back flushing cycle. And what that looks like is that you're going to take...
Oh, this is important. Like after all this process.
Yeah, like when you're done using the machine at the end of the day, this is what you're going to be doing. You're going to add your blind filter into the porter filter.
This is at the end when it's time to like go home.
You're going to lock it on. You're going to turn this on. It has to be done every day at the end of the day.
Basil's the last one here. We should tell him.
When it runs, you let it run for about 10 seconds.
Guys, you're not listening.
Baz, this is an important part.
Then turn it off. And then you're going to run it for another 10 seconds, 3 to 4 times. What this does
At the
is
end
that...
of the day, we have to clean it every day.
Okay.
So, he
Hold
left
on.
out the part that at the end of the day, I'm the only one that's still here.
Yes.
Guess who's cleaning
You have to change the porta filter. It's not really a cleaning. You just have to turn it on and off 10. How many times?
You're doing it about 3 to 4 times. Okay.
10 seconds each time.
So once it's done,
Look, he changed the porta filter.
so once it's done, you're going to see like coffee grinds and everything to it.
So that has no hole
Got it,
for
so
it.
there's nothing left
Yeah.
inside of it.
You're going to take your brush and you're going to give it
Oh my god.
a rinse, a wipe down.
That's it. I'm going to talk to HR now.
Too much work.
And then when that's done, that's it. Then you just wipe off your espresso
Baz,
machine,
but
clean
the
it
next day
up.
we'll have better espresso because
I'll
of
do
it.
it for the team. Don't worry, I'll take a
Yes, Baz.
Now, that's what you're doing every day. What you're doing at the end of every week is different. What you're doing at the end of every week is that I'm not sure if Steve gave this to you, but it's a chemical called kefisa. What kefisa is a solution, a powder solution that you put into here, and you're gonna run the same process. What this does is that breaks out any oils inside the machine, any grinds inside the machine, and give it pretty much a deep clean. Okay?
Once a week.
And you do that, like you do that,
3-4 times, 10 seconds.
correct. Once it's done, you get the brush, wipe it up, and then you put it again and do the process again without chemical, because you want to remove any chemical that's left in the machine.
Double.
Yeah, and then when that's done, you're good. After that, you're good.
Where does the kefisa go?
It goes into here.
And it goes through, it runs through the machine by going in there?
So what happens?
Again, show Baz.
So what happens with it is that when I put the kefisa chemical in here and I turn this on, it's gonna melt it. It's gonna melt the chemical, and then once it's done, I'm gonna turn this off, and it's gonna suck into it, and then you're gonna keep doing that. So you're kind of running a back flushing cycle, which clears it out. That's with the chemical.
This is what but it's the same process just with a chemical.
Yep, and you're doing
But
it
then you're-
twice
then
as
you're
opposed to
flushing it
once. Okay.
After, because of the
Yeah,
chemical.
this 10
Right.
second thing you have to do 3-4 times.
Yep, and then when that's done, the next day when you turn on the machine and use it, just pull one espresso shot just to toss it, just to run coffee through it, and then after
Remember
that,
Monday morning, otherwise somebody's going to die of poison, kefisa poisoning.
these guys can just give it a wash under the sink with dish soap. That's fine. If you notice that's starting to build up a lot of grime, then what you do is you just get a container, fill it up with hot water, put a little bit of that kefisa chemical to it, and let it sit for about 15 minutes, and then give it a wash, and that'll break down.
Pick up the cookies.
Yep, absolutely. And then after that, you're good to go from there.
Can you remind me to get that little tool that...
The leveler?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you come in, I'll remind you. For the porter filters, again, just hand wash it. If you notice it's starting to build up in grime, let it sit in a Kafiza bath, and then afterwards just give it a wash, and then it's clean from there. Kafiza is designed to break down all these oils, so if you notice there's something baked onto it,
Scaler.
it's not descaler. So Kafiza is a cleaner, not descaler. The scaler is something different. So once it's, if you notice it's built up, just create a Kafiza bath, let it sit.
And how often do I have to bring it to you for service?
Just got it. So honestly, for service, maybe 6 months to a year. Like do probably about a year to start, and then maybe about 6 months or so. Yeah, like something around there, just to see if it's working, how it's working. But if you're using filtered water, you're doing this maintenance to it, the machine will last you. Honestly, it should be the last machine you guys need to purchase in this style. So because you have the rotary pump to it.
Water in there right now. Where's the water?
It's in here.
It's a top in the tanks behind it.
And the tanks. Okay.
Yeah.
So just do them one more time. So
Yep.
at the end of each day, 3-4 times. Just
10 seconds.
run 10 seconds.
Yep.
With
The blind portafilter. So the blind filter. So just replace this your coffee filter with the blind one, the one that has no holes in it. Put it in.
it has no holes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
just
sorry,
sucking
where
water.
is
Paying
it?
attention, Baz.
No, I didn't realize it was one.
This one here
Yeah.
is this guy here.
So the water just builds up. In there.
Exactly.
Oh, I got
Exactly.
it. Okay. Got it.
And then when you're done, just get the brush and brush on the inside, and then you're good to go.
3-4
At the end of the week, use the Kafiza. Same process, just that you're doing it 2 times, and that clears out the
How much Kafiza goes in there?
small, like very very small, like almost like a it's a powder, so almost like a half of like a teaspoon kind of amount. You don't need a lot, and it's a big container, so it's gonna last you a long time. But yeah, every other at the end of the week, I recommend doing the Kafiza cycle.